Hi folks, welcome back. So if you've seen my last couple of videos, you know that I've been playing around a lot with MCP apps and tooling for MCP servers, particularly CLI tooling. And I've made a couple of tools which let you generate UI dynamically for MCP servers, which let you compose and change the tools in MCP servers. All that was the topic of my last video. But today I am going to talk about a new tool which kind of adds one more and brings them all under one umbrella and one CLI that is nicely composable with pipes. I'm calling it MCP Knife because it's like a Swiss Army knife for MCP servers. And it consists of three main subcommands: boot, mod, and UI. And mod and UI I've already shown in this previous video, but basically the division of labor is that the mod subcommand, will transform or combine tools on an existing MCP server. UI will auto-generate interactive UIs or MCP apps or ChatGPT apps, depending on the command line flag, from an MCP server. But there was one piece missing, and I call that boot, MCP Knife boot, which, given a prompt and maybe some API docs, because that's the most common example, will stand up an entirely new MCP server. And the really compelling and powerful part is that you can pipe all these commands into each other and compose them on the command line. So it makes for a really nice experience. So rather than explain more, and I'll leave a link to the repo in the description, it's open source, it's Apache licensed. I'll just give you a quick example. So here I have a 3-stage pipeline that uses MCP Knife. It's on NPM, by the way, so you can just do npm install MCP Knife and you'll have it. MCP Knife boot, given a prompt, stands up a new MCP server. And in this case, the prompt I'm giving it is this really short and terse prompt. And all it's saying is, go look at this API documentation. In this case, this is a free dictionary API. So given a word, it gives you back the description of the word, the origin, meanings, synonyms, antonyms, and so on. So just a plain old dictionary API. And so this first command line puts an MCP interface on this API. But I'm not interested in all the tools, so I pipe it into a second invocation of MCP Knife mod, as in modify. And again, I can modify the MCP server just with a natural language prompt. And all I'm saying is I'm not interested in all the other tools that this MCP server might expose. I just need you to create one new tool that, given a word, returns its synonyms and antonyms. So that takes this first MCP server and modifies it. And finally, I pipe that second MCP server into a third command line, which just says MCP Knife UI. And that takes the same MCP server. It doesn't change the tools and the meanings, but it does add UI resources so that it shows up as an MCP app. So here is that MCP server, the last one, the output of MCP Knife UI, brought up in my ChatGPT app simulator, also handles MCP apps. And you can see it has all these tools. This is the tool that I asked it to create. So given a word, just return its synonyms and antonyms. So there you go. It synthesized a nice UI. I didn't have to code any of this by hand, that shows the synonyms and antonyms of this word. And you can try it with a different word, in this case light, and you get the synonyms and antonyms. And I think this is really useful for quickly standing up MCP servers, modifying them with natural language prompts, putting UIs on it. By the way, this UI command can also take a prompt. I just very rarely need it because the UI that comes out of the box usually is pretty decent already. Quick note on the configuration. So all these tools, of course, use an LLM to do the planning and the code gen to stand up these MCP servers, generate the UI, and so on. And you can specify all those things on the command line, but there is a config file, home/.mcpkniferc. And in that config file, you can specify what your model is and what your API key is so that your command lines are short and sweet. There's one more quick thing I want to show. Now, you can, if you want, change the UI with a refinement prompt. You could just re-invoke the command line with a new prompt, but you also have this UI refine tool that MCP Knife UI will give you. And in this UI refine, this is just a tool which takes the name of the tool and some natural language feedback. So I can say something like show synonyms and antonyms in two columns side by side. And I don't want to see the part of speech or category like it says noun or verb over here. And if I do that, it'll take some time to regenerate the UI. So you'll see some latency. But this is what the new UI looks like. So it took my feedback and it regenerated the UI. So this gives you the setup where you can keep refining your UI and keep invoking these tools until you have something you're satisfied with. So that's MCP Knife. It is a command line tool that lets you go the full end-to-end journey from booting up an MCP server out of nothing, usually some kind of API, modifying the tools to exactly the kinds of tools that you want, and finally putting a generative UI, dynamically generated UI on your MCP server so that you can see it as an MCP app or ChatGPT app. Would love to get your feedback. Check out the repo. Let me know if you try it out or find it useful or not find it useful or build something cool with it. I hope you like it and I will see you next time. Thank you.